Hey guys, it's me, Bucket Ponds, and today I'm here with a new project. I'm going to turn this excellent 1 gallon pickle jar into a miniature version of my farm tank. I've gotten more algae sales than I expected, and that's great news. So we need to grow some more algae ourselves, and here's my method to do so. Now this is going to be a real simple pond in a jar type of build. I'm just going to throw some sand in here. And I am simulating my farm tank because I know that works to grow this stuff. Some coarse grained sand here, and we have some nice, uh, almost pink colored marble stones. Those are going to look great down in there. And I like to test a new idea with every aquarium I build. It's not the best way to succeed at things 100%, but it is a good way to learn new things every time you do a project. So in this build, I'm going to include this black granite here. This big, relatively big chunk of black granite. If I can fit it into the jar. Yeah, that'll work. All right. So that'll be our centerpiece. And we'll build around it. Sand first, our black granite, and then our marble chunks spread out around it to add contrast. Then we're going to fill it up with water. And we're going to use some of our excellent Nitella algae. And probably a little duckweed to, plant the tank. And yeah, then we'll spread some of our worms and our small crustaceans, our possibly paramecium. But yeah, maybe some ostracods too, just for fun. This is going to be a miniature version of my farm aquarium, and I do intend on harvesting Nitella algae from here, periodically. Probably let it fill all the way up, and I'll come through and cut it off about halfway, and that'll be a good order for somebody, and then, it'll regrow, and we'll do it again. As with all my aquariums, I'm going to feed this cucumber slices, and I'll show you that too. So let's go ahead and start building. As always, our first step is our sand. So I'll be right there. Now I am using a very coarse grain simulated beach sand. This stuff isn't that rare. You can get it at home improvement stores. And I also sell it on my Etsy shop. It comes as part of my pond in a jar kit. And that way you don't have to go anywhere and buy anything special. You just get it all at the same time. But we're going to just dump that right into our jar. All right. And that's about how much I send you with a pond in a jar aquarium kit. Not a lot, but not a little either. Enough to do your tank. I like to kind of shift it around a little bit before I get the water in it, figure out how I want it to be. A good idea is to pick which is going to be the backside of your tank, and then form a bit of an incline, like that. That way it adds more depth when you look at it this way. You can kind of see more of the land mass or the land surface. So that's our sand layer. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little water to help things kind of compact a little bit and settle down. And I'll be right back. All right, we're back, and we've added a little water to our sand. See that? Just to keep that nice inclined shape kind of, sticking together. Next, we're going to apply our black granite, which I haven't used before. I've used a little bit of this as gravel, and it seemed fine, actually, in the farm tank. So I'm thinking a big chunk like this won't really hurt anything. If anything, it'll probably increase the, raise the pH and make the water a bit harder, which I'm okay with. Everything I keep seems to enjoy hard water. I'm just going to wedge that in there like so. It does kind of ruin my incline I was going for, but look at that. That's going to create a really nice aquascape. Next, we're going to apply some of our pink marble stones. Now, I hope that the pink color comes out a little better once they're underwater. I saw it really well when I was rinsing them. And we're not going to do anything too elaborate. We're just going to set them down in there, kind of around the black stone, to add some contrast to it. When you view it, when it's all filled up, it'll have a nice sort of aesthetic vibe. implying that there's a step, like a step structure here, made out of this marble stone. That's my goal anyway. But we do have to add one or two over here. There we go. Okay, I think that'll be nice. Alright, my water is a little cloudy. That's probably from the sand. It's a good idea to rinse your sand before you put it in your aquarium, but it's not a big deal. It will settle down. It won't really hurt anything. And yeah, for our next step, I have just a couple more pieces of marble that aren't quite that pretty, but I'm gonna add them anyway. Here they are, and you can see that one in the middle. This one does have a very different color compared to the other two. These all came out of the same source. All right, our next step is we're going to add some more water and fill it most of the way up. And yeah, then we're going to look at getting our creatures and plants into here.
You may need to just gently clean your excuse me. You may need to gently clean your jar aquarium.
You may need to gently clean your jar aquarium during setup because of the sand and the little smudges that show up from just touching the glass. Now I am going to fill this up with some more water, but I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. You have to be careful not to disturb your sand layer too much. And there are two ways to do this. You can add water very slowly, or if you're trying to maintain a certain angle like I am, you can kind of lean your jar backwards. And generally it'll work out. Oh, a little bit more. There we go. Gently lower that back where it needs to be. All right. Now that's looking much nicer. Now we're going to add our plants. Now this is a replica of my farm aquarium, so I will be using some water directly from my farm aquarium, along with some macroalgae, my own Nitella Macroalgae, which I also have for sale on my Etsy store. I hate to keep pushing those links, but it's really helping, guys. I made a couple sales. I'm able to buy some stuff for the channel. I'm going to sell live cultures soon of my worms and my snails and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, apparently there are people out here that want to do this stuff, that like this stuff, and I'm glad to have you. So if I can help you, I really try. And it's just great to know that, you know, there's other people in the hobby. This is way beyond the aquarium hobby. This is ponds in a jar, water gardens. I'm not sure what you want to call them, but I'll be right back. All right, we have here a freshly harvested chunk of Nitella algae. This is about as much as I send you in a kit or an order. And you don't want to keep this out of the container very long because it is full of creatures. Full of little creatures. It's full of snail eggs, and they all want to be back in the water. So you want to hurry up and just get them into your container. You might make a little mess. You know, there will probably be some floating plants included. There will probably be some floating plants included in your order. And that's okay. As long as that's okay with you. You know, I'm not trying to stop the hitchhikers. I'm more or less selling the hitchhikers with the algae as a vehicle to help them travel and shipping. But there you go. You kind of spread it out a little bit. And I'll clean this up and zoom in a little bit so we can see better. There we go. Now it is a little cloudy in here. There are a lot of bubbles in the water. But that's natural. It's going to happen. The cloudiness will settle down over time. All right. And that's the hard part. It's just getting the plants in there. Now the water is a little cloudy, but it will settle down slowly over time. It's not too much to worry about. And you can see that strong dark feature in the middle there. It will show up through the algae just a little bit. Now I'm going to add more water. And you can see our first bladder snail in there cruising around already. But I'm going to add some more water. I'm going to try not to add other plants, but I do expect to have some duckweed and some mud midget in here, which is okay. But yeah, I'm going to get some of my worms and some of my ostracods and those little creatures, and we're going to toss them in this tank. And then we're going to top it up with a little bit more water. and we'll have a complete pond in a jar nano aquarium. All right. Now there was my algae. Now typically you will receive a container with both algae and water inside of it. But the water samples are important for the active bacteria that you need to quickly cycle your aquarium. We still cycle these aquariums, but we do it much faster because of the macroalgae and the bacteria. I've cultivated a very strong population of aquarium beneficial bacteria. I've done this by collecting samples from very established aquariums that have gone back to about 40 years. So yeah, I have some strong bacterial strains in here, specifically for cycling the aquariums. If you need to know more about the aquarium cycle, I suggest that you Google it, or maybe I'll produce a video about it one day and leave it in the description here. But for now, this is a little more than you'd receive with a kit. You can see that's, what, 60 milliliters, so you probably get about 30 milliliters. But this is chock full of worms and paramecium, some tiny creatures, and things like that. All very useful for your nano aquarium, and essential to doing a pond in a jar style tank. As you can see, things are already starting to settle down a little bit. We're going to add our little friends now, and I'll try to do it so we can see it on camera. All right. And we'll give it one more shot. All right. Now, I doubt we actually saw any of them cruising in there on camera, but there they are. You see all those little things rising? That's them. That's my paramecium and some detritus worms. And I don't know how they're going to react to being transferred to such a drastically different temperature tank so quickly. Usually they would be in a box for a while, shipping, and then come back and eventually get into an aquarium. But we'll see how they do. It only takes a couple to start a population, and I'm very excited to have this new miniature farm tank started. I got to get a little bit more water, and we'll zoom out a little bit. And yeah, you can see what it looks like, and we'll keep talking about it. All right, we're back. I'm going to fill it up the rest of the way. At this point, the macroalgae will catch a lot of the water's current, and you don't have to worry so much about disturbing your aquascape on the bottom. The way I arrange those stones and that sand, that's aquascaping. And it's fun. It's sort of like painting a little picture with your materials, instead of just throwing it all in the bottom. So if you did purchase one of my pond in a jar aquariums, I highly suggest you look into aquascaping. There are some great channels out there that will help you out. And I'm no expert by any means, but as you can see, I had some kind of idea of what I wanted to go with. And it worked. It looks pretty good. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and feed them. Because think about it. If you woke up in a world that was totally barren and free of any food, that would be really depressing and would kind of suck, right? Having access to food just increases the quality of life. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and feed them. I know I've been preaching the gospel of the cucumber god lately, but it's just something about them. It's like a superfood for these tiny aquatic creatures. They just tear it up, and it's easy to get. It's cheap. It's widely available, and yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and get them some food. This new aquarium here, I don't want to overfeed them. So we'll probably just give them a half a slice to start off. And yeah, if you're curious about why I feed my creatures cucumbers and how I arrived at that conclusion, you can look at some of my other videos. I talk about it a lot lately. And yeah, you'll see why. And for now, I'm going to let you just watch the little creatures swim around, and I'll probably play some music or something. I'll be right back with some fresh fruit for these guys. Alright guys, I'm back with some cucumber slices. Now when it comes to the creatures that I send you in the Pond in a Jar kit, when it comes to those creatures, this right here, your old standard cucumber slice, this is like ambrosia to them. This is the best gift that you could give them right here. And I like to take it, and I'll show you right here. And I just like to stick it down below some of this stuff. That way it doesn't float, because it will try to float. There you go. Somewhere in the middle is perfect. That way your creatures that stay a little lower have access to it. Your creatures that stay a little higher have access to it. Everybody wins. And that's all there is to it. One of the fringe benefits of having these aquariums is you're always playing with cucumbers, and it smells really great. It makes your room smell good. And the Nitella algae itself, if you do harvest some, when you do harvest some, it smells like a strange herb or something. It smells really good. And I've even noticed that occasionally, very rarely, my aquariums that sit in full daylight will have like this beautiful fresh forest type scent to them. And I believe that's because of the Nitella. I'm still looking into it. There's a lot I don't know about this stuff, and there's a lot that I need to learn. And I'm excited to do that. But as you can see, this is a Pond in a Jar aquarium. Now I could have included some extra bladder snails in here. There are plenty of eggs that come with the Nitella Macroalgae. But, you know, they will hatch sooner or later. But, you know, if you request extra snails, I'll gladly throw 4 or 5 extra bladder snails in there for you. You can think of my kit and my algae sales almost like ostracod cultures, detritus worm cultures. Like, you're buying all that stuff at the same time. You know, I'm not just sending you some sterilized algae. I'm sending everything. You're getting paramecium, if that's what they really are. You're getting detritus worms, bladder snails. You know, I can't guarantee that they'll all survive, but odds are a few will. And that's all you need to start a strong population. Powered by the almighty cucumber. Yep. Now, in my experience, it is best to run these with full daylight. And not to be shy about that. Keep them in a windowsill or maybe even on a porch, away from pets. But, you know, artificial lights work too. I have here a couple LED lights, pretty cheap. Nothing fancy. And, yeah. I'm excited to see this tank develop. On Bucket Ponds, thank you so much for watching. This is my mini farm tank build right here, or a mini pond in a jar, or a 1-gallon pond in a jar. One of those 3 things. All of those 3 things. Let's take a moment to admire our little aquascape that we did. That's a bladder snail. They will occasionally come up out of the water. They'll lay eggs up there. They'll do different things. And it's one reason that I remind you in the instructions, when you're building your pond in a jar aquarium using one of my kits, always leave a couple inches of space right here. That way your snails can come up and do their thing and go back in the water. Don't be panicked, or, you know, don't worry if they come up and act strange. They do breathe air, and they're interesting little creatures. They are Ficella acutia bladder snails. They don't get very big, and they like to have a lot of babies, and they like to eat cucumbers. They also eat algae. Those bladder snails are the reason you'll never have to clean your glass. You'll have to dust it, you know. But on the inside, usually a tank like this would load up with algae, especially when put into a windowsill. But with those bladder snails, that's not a problem. We have a little condensation forming because the water is a little colder than I thought. That's okay. These bladder snails can survive pretty cold temperatures. I've had some outside underneath frozen water. Not deep frozen, you know, it was just a little light ice on top, but they did just fine. Didn't hurt them at all. And the Nitella algae has survived outside for a while now, along with my duckweed. So in shipping, these should all be fine. If it's snowing or you've got a blizzard at your house, you know, you probably shouldn't order the Nitella right then. But if you do, I will ship it to you. So, you know, that's your responsibility to look out for the weather. I'm just here to supply. But yeah, guys, this is a pond in a jar, 1-gallon aquarium. A pond jarrarium, if you will, however you want to call it. This is set up using the bucket pond style of very simple natural aquariums. No pumps, no filters, no CO2, nothing like that. No fertilizers, no chemicals of any kind. Anybody can do this in their home and have a beautiful living decoration. You know, a nice conversation piece. It's more than that. You could have a science fair project based off one of my kits, or just the videos here. You can, go out and find your own stuff. Just be very careful if you do that. Bucket Ponds didn't send you. You went on your own, okay? But yeah, guys, that's me. That's Bucket Ponds. This is a mini pond, 1 gallon Jarrarium. This is a pond in a jar, you could also call it. It is not an ecosphere, it is open, and that is so I can harvest from here. This is a miniature version of my farm tank, and I will be selling algae from this aquarium very soon. Thanks so much for watching and clicking my video. Check out my Etsy shop, like and subscribe, all that stuff if you want to. And I've got comments to answer and a video to produce. So thanks so much. Goodbye. And just so you know, guys, the tiny creatures, the unknown mysterious swarm, Paramecium, as we've been calling them, they did survive the transfer. And I think they'll do fine in here as well. We'll check back in a week or two with an update video.